Today's episode is brought to you by The Dude Abiding.
Drop the beat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, The Blevins, and with me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much. How's it going?
It's going well, man. And actually, in our Twitch chat right now, we have Phelan, who's missed a whopping 32 episodes, but he is here. He's here, at least in spirit.
I was going to say, at least he'll be making some passive-aggressive comments at our expense, which are always much, much appreciated.
Yes.
Really my favorite kind of comment.
Yeah, I would never want a non-passive-aggressive comment to happen, but that's fine. Oh, okay. Got to ignore chat now.
Yep.
But let's move right into it. We had a pretty interesting week this week. Had a little bit of housekeeping. Actually, do we even really have housekeeping? I don't know. Let's just move right. I put things in certain categories. They can be housekeeping. They can be what did we do last week? I don't know. We'll do it in housekeeping, I guess. We got some new swag on it, and it's pretty sweet. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but we finally made the move on it. And for those watching on video, you can see right now we got some sweet business cards.
Yes, we do. We were able to use one of the graphics that Encaria made for us back in the day a couple weeks ago, maybe about a month ago or so.
Yeah.
It was, he's with the Glemda Overwatch website, so give them a look if you haven't yet.
And download their app. It is actually, and I'm not just saying this because he made a bunch of cool stuff for us, it is actually a really sweet app. Like, it will, like, take... It's like there's a lot of good esports apps that I follow, PvP.net, the Score Esports, and I think there's a couple other ones that I follow or that I have downloaded that will give me like updates, and a lot of them have like the Score, for instance. They group almost all esports into one category because like the Score is not the Score is like a sports casting site. So they have like a lot of the esports grouped in, or like esports news will be grouped in, and they don't really have a big Overwatch specific channel. The Glemda Overwatch app is just all Overwatch all the time, and they have all sorts of stuff from esports, from like Sombra stuff, just community stuff. So it's really great. So definitely check that one out.
And before we leave the housekeeping section, I do got to give a shout out. Not only are we being rejoined by Phelan, but I think we have another special guest returning this week in the form of the Spec.
Oh man, is the Spec back?
I think he's migrated. I believe he's just to the right of my face, and I can see him on my shoulder right about here.
I don't know, man. I think that's just on your actual screen.
It could be, but it's moving with the window. Maybe it's not.
I don't see a Spec.
I literally just like minimized the page, brought it back up, and now it's gone. It was not anything on my monitor. But he just wanted to stop by to say hello to me. It was like he DM'd me on Twitter or something. He didn't want the whole world to see it, but the Spec was just...
the whole world knows about it.
Right, that's why he disappeared right away, because I made him on there. But... That's a shame. It would have been nice to see the Spec again, but we'll have to just deal with Phelan being around.
Literally the most annoying thing in my life was that Spec.
It was pretty great. I'm not gonna lie. It took us so long to figure out what it was.
Yeah, but we got to the bottom of it. It was an inside job, just like Harambe. But let's move on to what did we do last week. Deathball. Let's start with you, buddy.
Well, I've gotten a little bit back into Hearthstone. You'll remember the story of my triumphant Magic the Gathering resurgence for one tournament, and it's really kind of made me want to play Magic a little bit more. And since that costs like $4 million, and I don't have it, and I don't want to have to drive down to Erie every single weekend as much as I like those guys, just to fill that fix, I decided to pick up Hearthstone a little bit. You kind of caught my attention with a cool rogue deck when I was over watching the tournament at your house the other weekend. And since then, I found a much cooler warrior control deck that I play now.
Oh, what?
It's great, man. It's got Tinkmaster. I had to craft 2 legendaries to make this, and I'm like you in the fact that I own everything, and it's just like, if it's not golden, I don't care. Get it out of my face.
Exactly.
But it played 2 legendaries so obscure I had to go craft them, and now really the only thing I might ever need is Yogg.
Oh, yeah. Yogg he's interesting. He's pretty bad. I kind of hate him as a card for a number of reasons, but we're not doing the Hearthstone podcast right now.
It's true.
It's not coming back.
A ton of PTR. I don't know that I've played more than 2 games on the live servers since the PTRs come out, and they took competitive away from me. Yeah, really. Like, even when the summer loot boxes, or the summer games loot boxes were there, I'm just like, I'll just go open them on PTR. Which doesn't make any sense, but I just want to, I don't know, I can't make myself quick play again. I can't be that guy. I'd rather solo queue comp than 6Q quick play, which is really saying something, I think. So a ton of quick play and work and getting ready for a camping trip next weekend. And football. Week 3 of the preseason means the starters play a bunch, but not for Buffalo this year, but there's a lot of football to watch, highlights, things like that. It's nice to have that back.
Nice. That's always nice to have football. Oh, what? Oh, sorry, I fell asleep halfway through that sentence.
Talking about 90s baseball.
I was gonna say, speaking of 90s baseball, I saw this really funny GIF of Bartolo Colon giving a back rub to someone, and it was the greatest thing ever. Bartolo Colon has now made it into, I think, 2, if not 3 of our episodes. So, Bartolo Colon, if you're listening, if you ever want to be on the show, we'll definitely.
You can fill in for me that week because I don't care about you.
I don't really care about him either. He's just the greatest thing.
You have Shaq on at the same time, and I cannot care. Although Shaq at least I would at least talk to him because he has anything to do with esports.
Yeah, Shaq owns an esports team. Bartolo Colon is just a really fat, really good starting pitcher. Like, he is like really, really fat.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Okay. I was like, you need to look at him because he is impressively fat.
Whenever I saw him on TV, I thought, you know what? Maybe I could play professional baseball.
He's an inspiration to us all.
I don't need to work out. I just need to have been born with the ability to throw a baseball 100 miles an hour, and I haven't tried that. So maybe I could. It's
possible. He just puts his whole gut into it, and it just goes like 150 miles an hour with an incredible amount of spin. But let's stop talking about Bartolo Colon. What did I do last week? I played a little bit of PTR. I was in the same boat of like, there's no summer games, loot boxes, there's no competitive. There's also no reason for me to boot up the regular game, so let's go PTR. I've been playing competitive, and it's been pretty meh. Solo queue competitive is still just bad.
What'd you get placed at?
I haven't even finished my placement games. I think I'm 2-3 or 3-3 right now. Maybe even 2-4. I don't know.
I had to do 20 placement games this time.
Oh, yeah, because of the like reset. Yeah, pretty bad.
It was annoying, but it explains why my rank was so terrible, because I guess it was so bad, if you don't know, they had to reset after like 2 days of ranked being live on the PTR, because if you were to queue as a DPS player with a support player, by the end of your maybe 5 games after placement, the support player would be too low to queue with the DPS player, even though it's shared win-loss ratings. Like, it was apparently pretty obvious and pretty drastic of a difference, so they had to reset that.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. So I'm looking forward to September 6th when Season 2 comes out. Then I can really start playing competitive again, so that's good.
September 9th.
Is it September 9th? Oh, I thought it was 6th. Oh, 3 more days of awfulness. But whatever. We'll live. I just want them. Like, it's really tough. Like, I didn't think I thought like, okay, nice little break. Can take the break. The break is too long. Give me like 1 like week off, and then put me back in the seasons. I don't want to wait. But
yeah, it's a little bit too long. I'm not super happy about it. We'll see if it changes at all for the next season. Theoretically, once they are not needing to make changes to the way ranked works in between each season, going to be able to shrink it up, but we'll see if they want to. I know the Diablo 3 seasons are like debilitatingly long after they shut down the one, and then the next one I forget the game exists, and then I hope to get lucky and realize it does when the next season starts. But
yeah, and I think maybe if they look at like how much their players have dipped, or like their play rates have dipped, they might consider not having such a long break. But the other thing I did, and we'll wrap up what did we do last week? I started Facebook streaming from Blizzard, from Battle.net launcher, which is pretty sweet. It's like super easy and super simple. Like it's super simple in concept and super easy to do. So you literally just press Control F1 in the game and you start streaming on Facebook. And it's like all it has is the game and your face. If you want it, you don't even need your face. You can just have your mic, or you can not even have your mic. You can just have your game up. It's like super, super simple to do. So check that out. And actually, in that vein, like our Facebook page, facebook.com/HighNoonPodcast, I'd like to start posting the streams onto that, and as well as some of the other Overwatch groups, so we can get a little bit more traction on that. We'll go from there. So,
well, apparently there's some conflicting reports about the start date. It very well might be the 6th. It seems odd that it would be a Tuesday, though. I really thought it was the 9th for a Friday to give us the weekend.
No, don't they usually do the updates on Tuesdays, though? That's like when patch day is, right?
Updates, yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean they would hold this season start there, because it doesn't have to include a patch.
True.
But we'll wait and see. I don't know. Last I knew, it wasn't an official time, but somebody told me the 9th with some certainty yesterday, so I was rolling with it. But now
Are you sure you weren't just upside down when they said that?
I mean it very well as possible.
I don't know. But let's move on to what did you guys do last week? Didn't have a ton, I don't think. Maybe did we? I don't know.
No, it's been a really light week.
Yeah, it's been kind of light, but we did have an interesting conversation over in the High Noon Podcast Patreon Discord. We had an interesting discussion from our gold tier patron Psych Mopko. I really need to figure out how to pronounce that.
Say
Psych. Awesome. Psych. Okay, I'm done. I'm never doing that again. But he asked, basically, in essence, asked us about Soldier 76, and he asked if the new buffs, which we'll talk about, or I guess kind of changes, which we'll talk about in a little bit, if he's going to come back into the meta. And Deathball, I'm kind of interested to see, we haven't really talked about this amongst ourselves, but I had a pretty interesting opinion, or I had a pretty strong opinion, at least, it might not be interesting, about Soldier 76 coming back. And my thoughts are Soldier 76 is in a spot where he's not necessarily meant for competitive. So what I mean by that is he's really good at being a jack of all trades. He can do a little bit of DPS. He can do a little bit of healing. He's got some mobility. He's really a really nice, I would say, introductory or learner hero for people new to the game. That doesn't necessarily mean that he has to be the best hero in competitive. I think his skill ceiling is a little bit too low. So the top of 76's play is just not high enough to really be a playmaker in competitive, like a McCree or a Genji or even a Tracer, where you can play, if you have fantastic aim with McCree, you're just going to be so much stronger than a 76, even if the 76 has great aim. It's just the power ceiling is just not high enough for 76 to see as much play as those other DPSs in competitive. So what do you think, Death?
Yeah, I kind of took a back seat on that conversation because everybody made all the points I wanted to make by the time I read it. But I think you're very accurate as to where he's at now, in the sense that we'll never see it happen in his current state for competitive play in tournaments because, like you said, just when you're never missing your left click, so you're just going to want the McCree more. But I don't think that's where they want him to be or that's where he'll stay. I do think he's a bit of, I don't know, I say this about just about every hero as we talk about him, except for like Roadhog, Junkrat, and the turret guys. He's like a name brand character almost.
Yeah.
He's like a headliner to me. He got one of the earlier animated shorts. I think he's somebody they do want to be around and they want to see play. He'll really bring in some crossover appeal from it's been probably 28 episodes since a mention of it, but your scrub Halo players like Phelan, who are really used to that style of kit, and I really feel at home with a character like that. He's a great entry character, so it makes sense that he would be a jack of all trades, and that's basically what his kit is. They're like everything that's classic FPS, just give it to him, including the most classic hack for an FPS as his ultimate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really think there needs to be a place for him, and I think they're going to continue to push to give him that home. Just thinking back to some of the crossfire defenses that we've seen on Watchpoint Gibraltar, I miss those. There was 2 76s in those, and back before Hero Limit, and it was really a phenomenal style of play. It was unique to the map, so I think there's a lot of room to get him back into things. It's just a shame that he fell out not because of a nerf, but because of somebody else's buff. Because now you need to bring him up, and it's going to be really hard to balance them out because of how similar their roles are. So it's an interesting challenge. I think it's going to take some time, but already I think with the slight changes they've made, I could see teams opting to use him as a counter. If somebody's trying to play something like a Farah despite your McCree, if they think they have an answer for your McCree and they can get away with it, suddenly you can go into 2 hit scans. That's definitely an area where he'll see some play. And also there's some really high quality players out there that are just ridiculous at McCree. Looking at you, Harry Hook, I think is predominantly the one I'm talking about. Also, AZK to me was just an out of this world Soldier 76 player, and I'd love to see those guys kind of get back onto their home characters a little bit and be able to play them. So hopefully one of those guys will notice something about the changes we'll be talking about to him soon, and maybe they'll be able to bring him back in with just this very slight buff that he got.
Yeah, and I think one of the main problems with him is that he is exactly what we said, a jack of all trades. So if you buff something too much, all of a sudden he gets too good, right? Like he has something that would be really good and all the other things. So it's like a really fine balancing act to be able to buff him up to the point where he would be at the same level of usefulness as a McCree, but not just strictly better than McCree. So I don't know. It's interesting to see. The thing that comes to mind is to buff his right click, his rockets, maybe buff up the damage or the AoE for that, and just leave his make him more of a niche special. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree 100% that he needs to be a top tier pick for competitive, or necessarily see competitive play to be at a spot that Blizzard wants him to be. I think he does a really good job of allowing people who aren't playing pro level to have a hero that kind of fits a team role in almost any case. If you're playing solo queue and you need a DPS, or you need to add a little bit of healing because your team your team refuses to go 2 healers, but you still need some damage, 76 is really good. If your team needs a DPS and you're not the greatest at McCree or Genji, 76 is fine. He's really good in almost every situation in solo queue or quick match, but he's just not necessarily that high power level for competitive. And I don't know, maybe Blizzard does want to see him in competitive, but I wouldn't be that surprised if he's in a spot that they're fine with. So,
yeah, you could be very, very well right about that. I think it'd be dangerous to improve his rockets, but like I said, he got this slight buff now, and it might just be that once the meta's not so predictable, when it's a little bit more rock, paper, scissors to it, we might find that Soldier is better than McCree as a default rollout, because you get a lot of the ability to counter certain things like the Pharahs, but you're not stuck. Right now McCree shines because Genji and Tracer are so popular, so the flashbang shuts them down, but maybe if we get to a point where it's Reaper and
mid-range fights,
Pharah, you can, and there's 3 or 4 different compositions and styles that you can play.
Then and you just want to play down the road,
right, and he just becomes that default. I'll roll out with him, and then when I die, I'll counter what they're doing specifically, and that would be a really cool spot for him too. So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of room for improvement with him, but at the same time, he's not far off. So I hope if they're going to make any changes, I hope they keep him real small like they did this time.
Yeah, I do like the incremental change with him though, because I really don't like. I really don't want to see 76 like taking over everything and just being everywhere, because like so many people use him and he's so easy to pick up that if he gets overpowered, it's just like I'm fine with something being overpowered if it takes a lot of skill to do. Like if you need to be really good with Widowmaker, like I can at least appreciate like a good Widowmaker. Maybe not so much when all you need is body shots, but like I can appreciate a good Widowmaker going off and just headshotting me over and over again and killing me. But like a 76 being super good is just not. I don't think it's good for anyone. But I hope that answers your question, Psych. We kind of answered it in the Discord anyway, but you get benefits for being in the Discord channel. You get these answers early. We kind of talk about them beforehand, and most of the conversations end up on the show anyway. So. But let's move on to one of our I can't talk right now. One of our regularly scheduled segments, the Tournament Talk. And much like last week, we had one. Well, I know it's kind of unfair to call it one tournament because it was more like 8 tournaments. 4
or 8. Yeah, you're totally right.
It was more like 8 tournaments, but it was one super tournament with a bunch of brackets in it, I guess you can call it. I don't know. But we're talking, of course, about the Overwatch Open, or a.k.a. the Eleague playoff finals. No, the playoffs for the playoffs, I guess is the way to put it.
It was like the playoffs to qualify you for the LAN tournament in Atlanta.
Right.
We've basically narrowed it down to the 16 teams that will be playing at the LAN. I believe this is a bigger field of teams than Gamescom had, but I'm not 100% certain on that. I know the prize pool's bigger, so there's definitely a lot of hype to this event. This is the one where the finals, like the grand finals, will be played on television. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's any more than just the one match on TV, but nonetheless, very, very exciting time for Overwatch. So make sure you're following this. I don't have exact dates for when they'll be playing in Atlanta, but I think
they like just announced them too.
Yeah, it's very recently, and I've been watching the event page on Gosu, and it just really hasn't been there. One thing I can tell you with relative certainty is that it won't be next week, and currently I don't think we have any tournaments on the roster or on the docket for this coming weekend. So we mentioned it in the past. I'm going to bring it up again. There's a very real chance that with the holiday weekend and me going camping, things like that, we might not do an episode next week, so do keep an eye out for that. But looking here, I'll read the EU, you read the NA?
Sure.
All right, so qualifying for EU, we have Luminosity. This is the new Luminosity, not the Seagull Luminosity. We also have Dignitas, formerly known as Creation Esports, Reunited, NIP, which is Ninjas in Pajamas, FaZe Clan, Rogue, Anox, and Misfits all qualify. So really just 8 phenomenal teams from the EU side of things. It's really hard for me to pick, except for the fact that it's LAN, and we have a clearly outperforming team on LAN, in my opinion, in Rogue. If this was played offline, I would say it's a complete crapshoot. I can see any one of these teams taking it home. I would favor EU from this list here just because of their performance at Gamescom, how strong they were. They took down the King. I think they only lost one round throughout the entire event. It was a double elimination if you lost early enough. So, but obviously Reunited constantly in second place, except for like that one time they actually won an event. But when you're constantly in second place, that just means you're really consistent. You're right there. And if the team they play against, just in the finals isn't having that strong of a game, or they get the right map pool, they're an easy candidate to be a possible victor here. So
yeah. So before I go into my overall picks for the tournament, I'll talk about the NA side. So from the NA, we saw Envious, Splice, Cloud9, Sodipop, Fnatic, Liquid, NRG, and Method qualifying. So not we saw some of the heavy hitters, of course, the Cloud9s and the Enviouses and the Fnatics of the world qualify. We also saw a couple not no names, but some I would say less than top tier teams in Sodipop and not Liquid and Method being not necessarily that S tier team, and not as I would say stacked as the EU side. What do you think, Death?
Yeah, it's definitely. I think the cream of the crop is still on the NA side of things. Despite Rogue beating Envy, I still have Envy as the clear number one overall team. I don't know. Cloud9 needs to show me something to want me to put them anywhere near number two, but it wouldn't take much. One big performance, and I'm just going to be all in on Cloud9 being back. But it's really top heavy with NA, and then it's way more tiered. So everything's way more spread out on the EU side of things. Like I said, I could see any of those 8 teams winning it, but looking at the NA side, you just go, well, Envy wins, right?
Right. If we're only looking at the NA side, like your clear pick for the NA final, and I think that the tournament is set up so that the winner of the NA side plays against the winner of the EU side, right? I think that they announced that. I'm pretty sure they did. Assuming that that's the case, it's going to be which of the EU teams has a great day versus Envious. That's what it seems like, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it's playing out NA versus NA exclusively, I don't know that there's anybody on the NA side that's going to be better equipped than Cloud9. I mean, we've seen them have bad days. We've seen, two kind of mediocre, one mediocre and one bad LAN performance. So it's definitely a minus to them because it's an in-person offline event. But we've seen some really good performances from Splice. NRG did qualify for their first LAN, so we have no idea what they're going to be like. This drastically different tournament environment.
Yeah.
So they could be a surprise. I don't know that we've seen Liquid play on LAN yet either. So and they did, finally solidify their roster a little bit. As they signed Rafa a couple days ago, and he's going to be a permanent fixture on Team Liquid.
Yeah.
Seemed like a really good pickup for them. Hopefully with some time to meld into the team, they can make a run. But like you said, Envy is the clear favorite, and if it does play out that way, I think we're pretty sure to see Envy in the finals. They didn't boot camp for the last event, and they didn't have a good showing. So I'd say it's a pretty fair bet that they're going to be boot camping this time.
Yeah, you'd think that they're after they... As disappointing as it could be, a disappointing finish for them, having only top 4. Was it top 4? I don't remember. Having only top 4 the event, it was disappointing for them because every single person, ourselves included, were like, okay, we'll just play this tournament out for second place because Envious is going to win. They got dethroned. So that takes a little bit of a toll on you, whether you think it does or not. It'll take a toll on you, being dethroned from the clear number one down to not even making the finals. So we'll see where that goes. But let's move on to our. I want to start doing this for these big tournaments because I think it's fun for us, and I think it might be a little bit fun for you. And we can, for you, the viewer, not you, Deathlow. Maybe it'll be fun for you.
Yeah, we don't care about me that much.
No, we don't care about you. But I want to do 2 categories. I want you to pick who you think is going to win, and B, I want you to pick who you're going to root for in the tournament. And before we talk about our picks, I want you guys, the viewers, to also make your picks. Tweet at us at High Noon Podcast. Tell us who you think is going to win Eleague, and tag the team or whoever, and also who you're going to be rooting for. They don't have to be the same, but they can be the same if you want. So, Deathball, let's start with you. Who first off, who do you think is going to win the tournament?
Well,
if you had to put money on it, if I
have to put money on it, it's on Envy.
Okay,
hands down.
Yeah, I think they're still the favorite.
Yeah, they're definitely, to my mind, still the favorite. They have just this awesome ability to really adapt very well, and part of it comes from being that much better than everybody for so long that they could play whatever they wanted and make it work. But it's really put them in a great spot to be able to adapt. We saw a little bit this past week. Some of these teams brought out some comps that maybe we're not so used to because it was their last chance to qualify for this tournament. So you pull out all the stops, you bring out the map that you've been testing that you haven't done in scrims against anybody because you don't want them to know it's coming, or you only do it against 1 or 2 of your favorite scrim partners that you play against constantly, so not everybody knows about it. And same thing with some character comps. None of them are really jumping up off the top of my head right now. We've seen NRG play a lot with the triple tank, triple support, but we've seen a couple other teams do it as well. And there's this really popular
Splice. Splice was running it, I think, a lot.
Gotcha.
I think it was Splice this weekend.
There was another team doing it almost more than they should. Like NRG does it when they need to answer something, or when they set a really, they hold really well on defense, and there's like a 9-minute time. Like you have to get into overtime to lose on this time.
Right. The slow and steady, the like tortoise approach to it.
And
like you're going to set a time, it just might not be a quick one.
Right, and they don't need to, so they bring that out. It seems to be a tool for them, and other teams are, at least one other team, like you said, I can't remember who it was, probably Splice, has been really relying on it.
Yeah, I think it was Splice, and I think when they got bumped down to the losers bracket, and I could be remembering this wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but in the comments, I believe after Splice got bumped down to the losers bracket, the team that beat them, and I very easily could check this, but I'm not going to. The team that beat them, they interviewed them in the winner's interview, and they're like, yeah, they just use that comp too much. Like, it's good, but it's not always good.
Right.
Which I like the fact that there is an interesting or like off-kilter comp. So let's go right back to Magic. The combo deck is not always going to be the best deck in the format, but there are certainly people who prefer combo decks and will play a combo deck in every format and every tournament, regardless of if it's top tier or not, and they'll play it so much better than the like random people they're going to be playing against, that they can play a quote suboptimal comp, but if they're really practiced with it and they're really good at it, and like their Roadhog player is absolutely fantastic, which I think it was Splice that I don't remember their Roadhog player, but there were some really fantastic Roadhog hooks on Hollywood, I think. There was just like a whole highlight reel from that game of Roadhog hooks, and it might not have even been Splice, I don't know. But you can have those, like Roadhog is that type of character or that type of hero, and that comp is that type of comp that can really excel off of phenomenal Roadhog play. And if you have that type of player and you're very well practiced with that comp, like that can shine above a more standard or top tier, so to speak, comp. And I really like that the meta game is shifting or evolving in that way, where we can have dedicated off kilter comps that if you play them well, you can still do well, and it's not just we have to run this comp because that's what the meta says. That's what has to be run. I like the fact that there's a little bit of diversity, and I think we're going to only see more of that, coming up.
Yeah, another great example of it, to continue this excellent tangent that we're on, is the dive composition, where teams are running the Zarya Winston tank combo so that you shield the Winston as he jumps in, and then they're also running Tracer and Genji, who are great at just going straight to the back lines right behind their Winston, and it really allows them to basically play on both sides of the team and surround them, and it's been really, really strong. So we've seen that, as well as even on straight up payload maps, where in the past it was your team doesn't have a Reinhardt. Like, how do you propose to win this game?
Yeah,
they've found a way to beat that and counteract that.
You've got the old lady going, "Well, I never." when there's no Reinhardt, just like, back in my day, we always had a Reinhardt, like that.
And that really, we're still seeing that, and like we're joking about it, but at the same time, like it's really been since the beginning of time. It's it's Kings Row or it's Hollywood. Well, I guess here's your Reinhardt. You have to play it.
You're only playing a 5-person comp because the Reinhardt is just a fixture.
Right, he's just standing there with mouse 2 held down.
Yeah, it's literally just a monkey moving forward with. But not a monkey, because that's Winston.
Yeah, there's actually a monkey in the game, so we gotta respect the other species. But
Harambe.
But to get back to the original question, so I've got Envy as my I think they're going to win, and I'm not going to cheap out and pick them again for I want them to win, but I want NA to win, so I'm going to go with Cloud9, because gun to my head, I'd have to still call them the number 2 team in NA. And I really want NA to win, so that way I can spam at idiots on Twitch chat and have a good time with it.
Yeah, that is fun. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. So my pick, it's probably a bad...
Your country. It's fine.
Yeah, just betraying my country, betraying everything, and instead aligning myself with the team, the army I've aligned myself with for so many weeks now, the Twitch chat Pluppy Cancer. I'm picking Rogue. I'm going Rogue. for my winner. They won the biggest tournament to date. They won the biggest land to date. They dethroned the Kings. They won it all in the Atlantic Showdown. And that's who I'm rooting for too. I was rooting for, I didn't actually pick them to win. I won't try to claim that one, but Deathblow, you can attest for me. I was rooting for Tavik and Rogue for the entirety of the tournament last.
Go before that tournament, gun to my head, if somebody said who's Blevins' favorite Overwatch team, I would have said wherever Pluppy is.
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't matter.
You would have immediately said my dong and then realized that they're not a tournament or they're not a team anymore, and then just said what team's Pluppy on? Okay, it's Rogue.
It really depends who asked me that, because there's some people I couldn't give that answer to with a straight face. So maybe I wouldn't have answered my dong, but and really the two teams we've kind of picked here, how great after the quality of the match we saw from them at Gamescom in the Atlantic Showdown, it would just be a dream come true if it was Envy versus Rogue a best of 7, best of 5. You make it best of 15. I don't care. I'll watch it.
Oh my god, I want to. Okay, so another tangent. We are 100% going to Buffalo Wild Wings and watching this live watching the Eleague, or whenever it airs on TV. We're watching it at B Dubs.
I'm fine with that.
That's 100% happening. And B, I want to see Rogue versus Envy in the finals on TV at B Dubs more than I think any matchup that could possibly happen.
Especially if it works the way I think it does. And I even went to, since we've been talking about it, and I couldn't give you an exact date on when they would start playing out these finals here. I went to the Overwatch Opens website, went to their schedule, and they don't even have it up on there yet when it'll be playing out. So, but if it works out the way we think it does, in that everything's going to be figured out, the two teams that'll play against each other in the grand finals gets figured out, and then we take a week off and wait for it. I'm going to be so hyped that entire week if it's Envy versus Rogue. I'm going to be making multiple T-shirts. I'm going to just be buying Envy and Rogue T-shirts so that I can go to Buffalo Wild Wings with them layered and just
we gotta
talked about.
Yes, we need to get the gag going. We need
to alternate, right? So that way, whenever I have an Envy T-shirt, you have a Rogue T-shirt, and then we switch. I think that would be
entirely possible if two things happen. If Rogue makes the finals and we get a week off, there's a good chance I'll buy a Rogue jersey. If they will print one with Pluppy on the back and not Tavik.
Well, there's 100% chance that if you buy a Rogue jersey, I'll buy an Envy jersey.
Oh, why would you say that now?
Assuming they have one that fits my ginormous frame, I will definitely buy one.
Oh man, I think I can get one made. I'm pretty sure I can get one with Pluppy on it, and maybe Tavik will sign it. No, he probably won't. But yes, I am really excited to watch it on TV. But here's the real question. Are they going to, they can't do it live on TV, right? So in theory, they're going to play the tournament out ahead of time and then air it. Or would they play live on TV?
They play football live on TV. I think that's kind of the point. Yeah,
okay. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think they'll just kind of... Actually, this group of people, they've got their esports. It's the first time for Overwatch being on TV, but it's not the first time for esports being on TV.
Right, they had CS:GO for
a while.
I just wasn't sure. I don't know. I'm just a moron, is what it boils down to. So yes. Okay, then my whole question of do we just not look at the internet for a whole week? It does not come into play. We'll just watch it live.
I think if they ever did have to pre-record something like that, the teams would probably under a non-disclosure agreement and couldn't.
Like the old Survivor in 2001.
Yeah. So you just have to hope to not see them out at the supermarket holding the trophy or something like that.
That would be kind of cool if we just walked into Wegmans and saw Rogue holding the trophy there. Be like, wait.
Oh, you ruined it! Guess we're not going to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, I guess we're not going to Buffalo Wild Wings. We're following you back to your team house, which for some reason is in Buffalo now.
And as Twitch chat kind of said, there'll be a sizable delay in case anything goes wrong. They can kind of adjust or make,
Yeah, like normal, like football would.
Right, right. But it'll be pretty much
or other
live.
sports, like hundreds of other years of sports. I'm
Right.
just a moron, is what it breaks down to.
But we're getting close to the end here, and there's one thing I want to bring up. Now, we have the match of the week this week. Yeah, we're going with Dignitas versus OW Kings. In large part, it wasn't necessarily the closest match, despite being a 2-1 victory for Dignitas there. But it was just a really, really great match in the sense that it had cool maps. I mean, we started on Anubis, and then we went to Numbani, and then we go to Route 66. And it was like two completely different matchups. I mean, it was like Dignitas just got wrecked on Temple of Anubis, wasn't really that close, and then kind of treated them the exact same way when it got over to the payload maps. It was a really, really phenomenal match, and another part of the reason why is we've been talking a lot since they were creation about basically since the Widow buff, like what's going on with Lynx, what's going on with this team's lineup composition. Last week we saw an unfortunate death there for Allie. But yeah, last week we saw Lynx playing the Zarya role and really didn't have an opportunity to stand out or do anything. And for one of your highest technically skilled players on your team, you want him to be in a position where he can make some big plays and be a standout performer.
Yeah.
So this week we saw him playing the Genji, and he was exactly that. He was able to stand on his head, make really, really strong plays. Shatter 2K, I believe it is, for OW Kings was the Genji on the other side, and it was like a Wild West showdown with no McCrees in it. Like,
Yeah.
they were just the highlights of both teams, and they went back and forth like crazy, especially on Anubis, where it was a little more closely contested than the payload maps, where it's just some really impressive Genji play there. And then they put R-Tier on the Zarya and let Bromas play the McCree. And we've seen Bromas on McCree for a little while. And Blevins, I don't know how much of them you've been able to catch lately, but I'm getting really frustrated by this because, like, the saying R-Tier is God tier is so... It rolls off the tongue. It's just such a nice saying and phrase. And he's not God tier on Zarya. And it's really frustrating to me because I honestly think he might be the best McCree in the game. So I don't know what they're doing putting Bromas there. I haven't seen him play Zarya enough to know if maybe he's just bad at Zarya, but the team really takes advantage of being flexible to have three people that can play DPS or tank. And it just seems to me like they can't make what, from my layman's view or, from my terrible perspective, seems to be the common sense move, which is to put Bromas on the Zarya and let the other two stand out ridiculously skilled players stand out ridiculously skill-capped heroes. It just seems common sense, but they haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that maybe Bromas just overestimates his skill. Or maybe he's just a really, really bad Zarya, and having a bad Zarya is worse than having a good McCree is good, maybe. I don't know. I'm sure, like, the tier of team that they are, I have to just assume that they've tested it and that this is the most optimal build for them. That's just like what I have to assume, and what would make sense based on the fact that they're a top tier team and that they're a sponsored team. Those are the assumptions that you have to make, or else it just starts being nonsense and they're just making bad decisions, which is also, I guess, another possibility.
It very well could be, but it's definitely weird. And I want to give Bromas some credit here. We're talking about him like he's bad, and he's not bad. If there was anybody but R-Tier in that sixth spot playing Zarya, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because Bromas will stand out and he will do pretty well on occasion, but he doesn't take over the games. Like, he's just laying out some steady damage while Genji does all the flashy stuff, which is fine. But
yeah, and the other thing is, like, it's possible that, like, the way the camera works in Overwatch is, like, they're focusing on Genji a lot more, so we see a lot more of, like, the flashy plays, and we also see them play 4 matches a week, maybe. Whereas they play hundreds of hours, maybe not a week, but they play, probably at least 40 hours a week, I'd have to imagine, at least some of them. where they can see they know their team a lot better than we do, even as people who are watching their matches every week. We only see a small snippet of what they're actually doing, and they probably have a better feel for their team and their composition than we do, or at least we have to assume that. And if they're looking for some coaches, we're right here. So
yeah, I'm definitely here if you need me to tell you to play R tier on McCree. I'm more than happy to do it.
Yeah, so but that's interesting. It's interesting to see those types of not even like oh, you should play this character. It's like this person should play this hero, and like the inner. It's like you don't even that's like something that's unique to esports, right? Like you're not like, oh well, why don't you play Shaq at point guard? Like that's never a discussion. Right. I guess maybe like in baseball, it's like very rarely a discussion. Like, would you play third base or shortstop?
In the infield or in the outfield, but
it's never something that's interesting enough to really talk about.
Yeah, and you don't have players that flex and play both like you can in Overwatch, where they'll be
at least not like
at
least not like on the fly,
right.
Or like week to week. Maybe like week to week, you'll see someone like there are like flex. They're not called. Are they called flex? I don't remember. Oh no, they're called utility players, where they'll play like second base or shortstop or third base, I guess. But it's not an interesting discussion to have, because like who really no one really cares like if you're playing second base or third base, like that. It's just not an interesting move. And in basketball, the positions are really not defined. Like you could be a power forward or a small forward or a shooting guard, and there's really no difference. There's really no difference in terms of like what you're actually doing, for the most part, because they don't run plays in the NBA anyway. So I don't know. We'll see. It's an interesting discussion to have. And yeah, but we are slowly running out of time, and we do, or rather, we're quickly running out of time, and we do have some other stuff to talk about. So let's move on to another scheduled segment of our show. When I actually find the clip, here we go. And it is...
Oh, let's break it down!
Yes, let's break it down. We got some patch notes. We were going to talk about them last week, but we luckily ran out of time, and we got some more notes to talk about it, so rewarded.
Yes.
We got some PTR patch notes, and some pretty big things. We've now not only have the notes to talk about, but we also have played them for a week. So... Death, do you want to maybe we'll talk about we had the diva change. We had some diva changes, really not huge. Her defense matrix, after being activated, defense matrix will begin regenerating following a 1 second delay instead of a half-second delay. Having played diva on the PTR, really didn't notice too much of a change. Have you really noticed anything different or game changing about that one?
No, really, it's exactly as good as almost everybody was using it as prior to this change. Really, all that it did was stopped it from, basically having half the uptime, but still getting like 100% of the reward off of it.
Yeah.
Some people were just like spam right-clicking over and over again to like bring it up, drop it, bring it up, drop it. Yeah. And because it's got this depth to it, you were still kind of swallowing everything that came through. You just were only consuming it about half as long, and they wanted to make it so that way when you let it go, there's a full second now before you can bring it back up again, which gives time for the projectiles to make their way through the matrix area, and now you actually have to hold it and time your things well, and it doesn't quite it's not being abused, basically, and not many people were abusing it.
Yeah, having played a good, honest, fair diva my whole life, I didn't really notice any difference. But the next change that we got, I at least noticed a difference. I don't even really play the hero that much, so we actually and actually it got like reverted a bit too. So we saw Hanzo. Hanzo will experience a 30% decrease in speed while aiming, which formerly was 40%. So he has a lower decrease, so he's faster. His maximum projectile speed was increased by 30%. His arrow size has been reduced his arrow size has been reduced by 33%. So,
just to give you a note, it looks like they took the additional changes and just added them to these patch notes.
Oh, okay. So, okay.
So it previously was that, he just didn't have the arrow size reduction. What they initially did was just undid the change in the projectile size that they'd done previously, which basically had him just firing huge tree trunks again.
Yeah.
And really, it was Spamzo at his finest for about a week there. It was really, really frustrating. The projectile speed increase by 30% is really the big deal here to me, though. It's what makes it so that way you can aim way better and pick what you're hitting when you're shooting at long range instead of just trying to predict movement quite so much. It's a lot easier to be a really high skill Hanzo and have a big impact on the game. So to me, we're already seeing Hanzo on a lot of King's Row attacks, things like that prior to this change. So I expect him to come into the meta in a pretty decent and make a pretty decent showing as soon as these changes go live on the main server. So it'll be really interesting to see how he plays out. And as one of my favorite heroes, I'm really excited about this. The Wombo combo of Hanzo and Zarya is just out of this world with their ultimates. So I think that's one of the most exciting plays in the game. And really right now we're lacking the sniper class from the game. From something that's supposed to be there and supposed to be in the game, it's really not if you're watching tournaments right now. So they needed to do something to bring one of them in.
We've seen a little bit more Anna play, actually.
Yeah, but real snipers.
Yeah, she plays more of like a flex spot, but it is interesting to see.
She's like McCree for the most part.
It is interesting to see her again. But yes, she does not feel quite like a sniper because if you hit people, they don't die instantly. They just take a little bit of damage, and usually it takes like at least two, if not 3 or 4 hits to kill them.
I think it's 3 for anybody but like Tracer at 150.
Yeah. So. But yeah, I absolutely despise Hanzo in basically every way. I hate his ult. I hate the fact that random morons can just spam him and headshot me and kill me. He's the lowest skill, lowest everything hero, and he should be removed from the game. So,
and that's why I love Hanzo.
So hate him, and he's just literal garbage. And if you play him, you are literal garbage. So. I feel strongly about that. Except for Tavik, who plays him phenomenally, and go Plupper. But speaking of heroes that people hate, we also saw a buff to Mei.
Yeah, everything you said about Hanzo, you can just apply to Mei for me here,
and for most people, honestly. Her blizzard projectile now pierces barriers, and the radius has been increased from 8 to 10 meters. So I've noticed this quite a bit. Like normally, I have a pretty good feel for how big that barrier is. And I try to jump back, and I'm still in it. I'm like, oh god, this is not what I wanted to see. And we've actually been seeing some niche, albeit niche play, but we've seen some decent amount of Mei play from the traditionally zero that we see. She's seen some play on second point Anubis. She's seeing play on first point Hanamura, and there might be a couple other spots, but those are the two that stick out to me.
Point 1 Numbani, I saw a lot of people try it. I've never really seen it work out.
Yeah, I think unless you have a really good idea of where the entirety of their team is coming out, there's so many different points of attack for Numbani. I guess if you have a good read of where they're coming from and they're not split, then it's good to be able to split it. But if they come all the way to the right, or I guess to the right if you're right if you're defending, it's not that great. And I guess if they're coming up the middle, it's also really not great there. It's really only good if they're coming up through the door, which I think is
the top right door when you're defending.
The top right door.
It's really its best application, and it's where they've used it. It's also where 90% of the time the team attacks from the first time. So it's in theory should have been great. I've just, like I said, I've never really seen it pay off for anybody. And there's something going on behind closed doors and scrims, though, that has these teams continue to try it. And to bring things back to the changes that they're making, the reasons Mei gets played is all about the ice wall. It's just about, segmenting the team, putting them into 2 groups. So this change here does nothing but infuriate people that aren't pros because it just makes more people want to play her because she got buffed. So everybody's going to run to play her. And the ultimate's way better now. Like, you can't Zarya ult somebody out of it to give him the speed boost to get out. You can't just be a Reinhardt and have your shield up so you're not affected by it. It's better. Also, it's just bigger, so it holds up more of the point. It does a better job of pushing everybody off of it, things like that. But it doesn't actually make Mei a better character. It just makes the ultimate a little bit more annoying.
Yeah, and it already was annoying to the people. It was already annoying at low tier, and it doesn't affect pro play, so don't like the change.
even at the level we were queuing at the end of the season in comp, nobody was bothering with it because we were just high enough. They wanted to try to push for like 65 or 70s, but really they just... so they were trying, but they, whether they were going to get there or not. So nobody was playing Mei in our bracket either in comp, and it's that might change a little bit. Like, it might come up a little more frequently, but at the end of the day, this is just going to make quick play completely unplayable.
Yeah, at the end of the Mei, it's going to be Mei. It's going to be Mei. It's going to be Mei. Had to do it. Let's move on. This is an interesting change that I think McCree should have always had, so we won't spend too much time on it, but his Deadeye now drains over a 0.25 second period instead of displaying a 50% reduction on the ultimate meter when activated and 0 when confirmed. Basically, they made McCree's ultimate work like every other ultimate in the game. Yep. Which it should have been from the beginning, so not too much to say, except now McCree's ultimate is not just stupid.
And they're going to use it less for zoning purposes. They're going to probably let people initiate more, then activate it. So it'll slightly change the way we see McCree played, but in 100% agreement, this reads more like a bug fix to me, or like, why didn't it work like that the whole time? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. It definitely will have people pull the trigger, so to speak, more often than just, like, throw out the ult. And just, it's like, I guess it lowers the decisions because, like, if you activate McCree's ult, you have to really decide now, before the PTR changes go into effect, you have to decide, okay, is it worth getting 1 kill here versus having it be at 50% and just getting it back again and having a better chance for it. Now it's like, well, you just take your kill when you can get it because it ain't going to get better. It's going to be at 0 at the end one way or the other, so...
yeah, we'll see less of, like, there were some players out there at some times they would actually hit high noon just so that the other team heard it's high noon and then would cancel it right away so that they could go around left clicking, but at the same time
everyone's like running away in a stupid spot.
McCree's high nooning, we've got to get out of here.
That's interesting.
He's not, and he's running around just trying to murder.
That's really interesting. I never thought about that. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, we'll see less of that.
Yeah. You can still do it for sure, but it's just it has a real cost now.
And it's still going to charge stupid fast. Like, if you're hitting those headshots, you're still going to be able to Deadeye twice in a prolonged fight.
Yeah, which is kind of insane. So let's move on. Mercy, her healing beam, healing per second increased by 20%, and her resurrected allies will be able to maneuver after 2.25 seconds instead of from 3. So some Mercy buffs, which I think we've needed for a while. Kind of seen her drop out a little bit of the scene for
and by that you mean disappear completely and not see at all. Now, without having done the math on it, but just having talked to some people, I do believe New Mercy now out heals Anna on a healing per second basis.
Probably it was pretty close before. I have to imagine it is now.
Anna beat her by a pretty significant margin. The difference was that you had to hit the shots 100%, right? And then you had to factor in reload time and things like that, things that Mercy's not affected by. And now I think it's really, really close given 100% accuracy.
See, I thought it was like 50 per second versus 60 per second, factoring in, like, over an infinite amount of time factoring in reload time. It was, if you hit all your shots, it was 60. I don't remember. I just remember, I don't even remember where I heard that. I could just be completely wrong.
I'm fairly certain Anna heals for 75 with a shot from her gun.
Okay.
With 1 shot per second.
But then when you factor in reload time, I think it went down to 60 per second.
It worked down to, like, I think it's only like, because of the increase in clip size, I thought my math had it somewhere at like 70 to 72. And now I'm not 100% sure what Mercy's new healing per second is, because all the stats pages and everything like that kind of haven't updated for the PTR stuff.
Right.
So I didn't go figure out what the percentage is off the old one, everything like that. But I talked to some people, and I'm pretty sure Mercy's back to the number one healing, and seemed to be way more viable to me. I know the guy on my team that plays Mercy a lot, Waku, is really annoying with his plays of the game every single time. It doesn't matter. Every game he's got it. Like, oh, 3 res, just give him the play. So clearly she's back roughly where she needs to be. Wasn't the only change though. Also to the resurrect, states are able to move 3/4 of a second faster, so it's 2.25 seconds after resurrected. That's down from 3 seconds. So it just allows you to go from being res to murdering people again that much faster, which won't do a ton to change Mercy's power level, but at the same time, it's just like it's one of those quality of life improvements that just make your team want you to play Mercy more. And when your team wants the Mercy around more, she'll see more play.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully maybe we'll see her at least in the mix. It's been tough because Mercy has almost always, throughout the history of competitive Overwatch, either been an auto-include or an auto-uninclude. It's been very hard for them to really walk the line of, like, do we sometimes want a Mercy? Do we sometimes want Zenyatta? It's like, it's pretty much always been either an on or off switch. So hopefully they've gotten at least a little bit closer to finding a decent spot for Mercy. But
as a support player, I can tell you variety is in fact the spice of life, and I have had none of it since starting to play support. It's been play this guy or play that guy and never change. Except for in the past, it used to be like occasionally I was allowed to play Symmetra, but now that's pretty much not allowed anymore.
Yeah. That's why I got to play with me, where Attack Symmetra activates all the time. Except if you play with me, I'll be playing the Symmetra. So never.
Yeah, I just remembered why I don't play with you that much. It's so weird.
It's so. Hey, I think I don't have the stats in front of me, but off the top of my head, I've got like a 80 to 90% win rate with Symmetra, and I won't check them. So
that's pretty impressive for made up stats that you're not going to double check.
Yeah. Exactly. But let's move on. Genji, his double jump no longer resets when wall climbing. His dash, they did some basically quality of life fixes to his dash. I won't go into exactly what they are because they're not super important. His swift strike no longer interrupts quick melee attacks. And the biggest one that most people are complaining about is that his Dragon Blade duration has been reduced from 8 seconds to 6 seconds. And having started to play a little bit more Genji on the PTR, it is definitely a noticeable 2 seconds to not have for your Dragon Blade. So I don't know. What do you think, Death? Is it going to affect his competitive play? Is it all about that ult? Or is it the versatility and the mobility and the speed and all the above for Genji that is keeping him in competitive?
Well, I think it's definitely going to impact his play in tournament play. He's still going to be just fine for solo queuing in competitive mode, but I don't think the change to his ultimate is the biggest nerf here. It's a big deal, but I think everybody universally agreed that 8 seconds was probably a little bit too long to have that sword up. But the double jump no longer resetting when wall climbing might be what people overreact to that makes him completely disappear for a little while. So much of what he does is his ability to move around, and he's it says right here, Genji was a little difficult to pin down. You're not kidding, Jeff. He's been incredibly difficult to pin down throughout the entirety of the game.
Yeah.
And one of the changes you kind of glossed over, I just want to point out, if you're a Genji player and haven't messed with the PTR yet, don't try to dash through a Junkrat trap anymore, because it will grab you now. Okay, that's a big deal for Genji. To me, it reads like a bug fix, just like the McCree did. Oh, you mean it didn't work the common sense way? It should have worked the entire time? Okay, that's great. We should probably just make it work that way.
Well, you could make a flavor argument that he goes so fast that the trap triggers and he's already past it. Like you could make a flavor argument at least.
Yeah, it's a pretty poor one in my opinion, but you can make it if you want to.
Imagine if it's Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote set the trap, and it makes a lot more sense.
Right, except they're not trying to balance the two.
Right. No, I'm just saying from a strictly flavor perspective, you can make the argument. It has nothing to do with gameplay or like fun gameplay or balanced gameplay. It's literally 100% the Acme cartoon argument, which holds up in court, by the way.
Which what?
Which holds up in court, by the way. The Acme cartoon argument.
I'll have to take your word for it on that one, but
yeah, I'm not going to check.
For the most part, I think Genji will kind of do what Soldier's doing now, and to hopefully to a lesser extent. Hopefully, it doesn't take as long for him to come back in as it looks like it's going to take Widow. But maybe the lack of Genji around for a little while will bring Widow back. She is definitely a little bit of a counter for everyone's favorite sniper. So. We'll have to wait and see. I'm guessing the snipers will be stuck on the Hanzo for a little while, though. But yeah, I expect Genji to kind of die off in tournament play for a little while, and I don't think it's going to hurt the view. Unless you're a Genji main, it's not going to hurt your viewing experience too much, I don't think.
Yeah, but the man has no main. Let's move on to Lucio, who's... This is a pretty big one. This one I think might be the biggest one to affect me personally, because I play a lot of Lucio and I really like Lucio, and I've liked him for a very long time too. His amp it up, the boosting of movement speed has been decreased by 30% from 100 to 70. So when you amp it up in green mode, you're no longer doubling your speed. You're only 170%ing your speed. So pretty significant drop in speed boosting for Lucio.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. One thing I'll tell you, as somebody that I've done a couple tryouts in the last couple weeks, I've been looking at a couple teams, and one of them was for me to play the Lucio and be the shot caller for a team that's just way more coordinated than any team I've ever been a part of before. And it's basically like the amp it up combos with everything you're trying to do, attack or defense. If you only have one alt and it's a hammer down from Reinhardt, then you just speed boost the Reinhardt in and he does it. If it's Graviton Surge into Death Blossom, you amp it up so that the Graviton Surge can get hit and he can get behind the Reinhardt shield and everything that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Everything in competitive play right now revolves around Lucio's amp it up when he's on this mode, and it's made him be, since the beginning of time, he was in our initial Fantastic Four. If you listen to the first episode, it's been a non-stop Lucio show ever since, and it's never changed. Something has to change at some point, and this is a great way to balance him, because your average idiot in quick play that likes to play Lucio isn't going to be affected by this. Quick play Lucio pretty much holds on yellow like the whole time and just constantly heals up the team. Since they're not grouped up, they're just constantly taking damage, and you're just trying to hold them alive until the team accidentally is pushing as a 6.
Right.
So it's
so
it's
true.
not really going to impact quick play very much. And it's not going to, at the lower end, it's not going to deter anyone from wanting to play him, because they're like, oh, I never used that shitty ability anyway.
Oh, there's a dollar.
There's a dollar. If fish sticks taught me anything this weekend, it's that swear jars aren't a thing. But anyways,
that's so true. But that's the first in a while, though.
It is, yeah. And we've been kind of lax on it. Like the last time I thought I needed to donate, it seemed like we weren't doing it anymore, or the rules changed on it or something. So I just decided to go with it that time. But yeah, so this should really do a great job. And as somebody that's been a Lucio main for way too long, I need something to break me out of this never-ending, Lucio queue. And really, this seems like it has the biggest impact on competitive play while having the least impact on the lower end of play. And I think it's a beautiful balance change by Blizzard. Hopefully it pans out, and playing Lucio on the PTR doesn't seem useless. Maybe that's because I bought the golden gun on the PTR to see if I liked it. But, and he still feels okay. It's just not. He's not as impactful, and if you're on attack, you might want the Ana for the nano boost. That might be a bigger role-playing ultimate in a lot of ways. So it seems like it could be a really perfect spot for him. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I can't even pretend that this change is going to affect me, because I was never that good of a Lucio, and I never really played on a team that could use the speed boost that much. I have been working on staying in green mode as much as possible and only being in yellow to heal up, to like top people off or heal myself, which is, I think, definitely helped, but I never have played in a situation where the coordination required to amp it up into an alt, into a follow-up. I've just never played in a situation like that. I've only ever really 3Q'd, and we played some scrims. Or no, we didn't play scrims. We just played a 6Q in quick match, I think, as a team. But besides that, I've never really had a situation, and I did not have the weight of the team on my shoulders in that case, so I was really just filling in. So I've never really been in a situation where this is going to affect me for better or for worse, so I think I agree with you. Anything that's going to really change up the meta, especially the support meta, is definitely something I like, and I have been enjoying Ana a lot, so anything that is going to help me or give me an excuse to play attack Ana and make it so I'm not going to immediately have 5 people on my team be like, oh, Ana's bad, bro, don't play her. Anything that's going to get me to see that less is gonna be good for me. So that's good. Moving right along, we saw a really weird Roadhog change.
Yeah, skip this one because it didn't fix anything.
It didn't fix anything. Now his, like, when you hook someone, it like auto corrects to be in front of Roadhog instead of like in the. It's just a really weird and bad, I think, change. But just for the sake of consistency, if the hook target isn't in Roadhog's line of sight when retracting the hook, they will be moved back to the position where they were originally hooked. That doesn't even make sense to me reading it. But I think it basically, a lot of the hooks that didn't seem like they made sense before now like autocorrect to where they were hooked, I guess.
Yeah, it's not going to be, and as the player that gets hooked, you're just going to notice like you get stunned for a second when it grabs you, and then it drops you. But I haven't actually seen this happen so much, really, ever, when playing on the PTR, and I've been practicing Roadhog since I might be moving back to the off-tank flex roll. So I've been playing them a lot, and I've got to tell you, they're still disgusting. You could still do some of the most ridiculous hooks ever on the PTR, and I'm really not seeing this as anything that actually happened. Like, I forget that he was mentioned in the patch notes when I'm playing on the PTR.
Yeah.
But I'd really love to see the changes go into comp play, because like the top level Roadhogs, like this weekend, I can't even remember who did it.
Was it on Hollywood?
Yes.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like,
that was such an amazing...
The dumbest hooks I've ever seen. And, like, coupled with... there was, like, 3 of them that were just mind-boggling in that game. And it was, like... The one was fine. It was just a really skilled hook, and it's going to work always because he grabbed him off that bridge. And it was just... Holy cow, I can't believe he pulled that off. And then the next one was... He didn't see him at any point, and I mean, when he jumped, he didn't see him. There was no line of sight at any point between him and the Zenyatta. Threw it on top of the roof and pulls down a support player and kills him. And it's just like, the ZP lost his mind, and rightfully so. And then there was another one where there was like this barrier in front of him, and he jumped over it, hooked the guy, and then he like glitched over the barrier and like flopped funny, and then like jumped, and I don't know, he died right away, so it didn't really matter that it looked goofy, but it was on camera and it looked terrible, and just really buggy, and it was just added to the mystique of this guy's hooks, whose name I can't. It's driving me nuts. I like made a note to remember.
It was something with a B, I think. It was someone who I'd never heard of before, but it was really interesting. But yeah, if it were easy for me to find like that one clip, and they actually made a really great their play of the series or whatever that they did for Eleague, which I think was really cool. The production value is super. They really do. If there were an easy way for us to link that, I would say that is my match of the week. But there isn't, so I'm going to default to the one you picked. But yeah, not again, more like a bug fix, even though it's really not like a bug fix. It's like a really weird thing. I don't know. But we'll move on. Soldier 76 adjusted his weapon spread curve and increased the spread recovery speed. So like we mentioned earlier, some kind of minor changes to 76, and I like, we won't go too much into it because we already talked about it. I think with a hero like 76, you need to make very incremental changes, because one step too far and he's broken. I think they maybe took a couple steps too far back, and he's really not seeing play at all. So I like the incremental buffs, even if we don't necessarily see him immediately see him see play. It might just take a couple weeks for players to start using him. It might be that he's not strong enough, and we'll see that. But I do like the incremental changes to 76.
Yeah, essentially what this has done is make it so that way you get your 100% accuracy that your first 3 to 4 bullets have. You get that back faster. In his initial installment and in his initial rollout, you basically just let off the button for a second and then hit it again, and you were back to 100%. And that was too much, but now it's back a little bit. There is a little bit of a spread. They've adjusted the way it spreads. I haven't played him near enough to get a feel for how different it is. But if he's one of your favorites, do keep an eye out for that it will be a little weirder as the spread starts to take effect. I don't know if it's still random or what have you, or if it's not like CSGO is, where it's a set spray pattern and you can just hold down the button and continue to aim by being 2 inches too high and 1 to the left of the guy, and know that you're going to hit him. But
it's not 100% in CSGO. It's just very predictable, and it like the average spread is predictable. It's just not 100%.
Yeah, it's not exact, but like even the AK, when you shot it, like made a T in the wall if you did it, you know what I mean, over and over.
Yeah.
And it's not like that, but I don't know how RNG based it is anymore. It used to be kind of perfectly random as it spread out, I think, but I don't know that that's continued. We do have one more big change to talk about here.
Is it the Zenyatta one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Orb of Discord, the amount of damage amplified by a target when the Orb of Discord has been decreased from 50% to 30%, and the Orb of Destruction damage has been increased from 40 to 46.
Yeah, essentially what this did was it kept his damage at about exactly the same spot. But it's lowered by 20% the amount of damage that the Orb of Discord gives to your entire team. And think of it this way, and I know we've talked about it a little bit in the past, Orb of Discord is on currently live providing 50% increased damage to everybody that shoots him. Mercy's right-click provides 30% to just the person that she's right-clicking.
Right.
To take a quote from Firefly, does that seem right to you? It doesn't. It's just wrong, and it's why I never understood why Mercy wasn't allowed to have that 50% damage boost, and it seemed like, oh, she's way too broken now, we've got to get rid of it. She was fine. It didn't matter. They just reverted it and said, fine, pull out your pistol again if you don't care.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a flavor fail to me a little bit. I really want her to, in a 2v1 scenario, her best bet to be damage boosting the other guy that she's with, not pull out her pistol, shoot. That's not what Mercy's about to me.
No.
That's for, oh no, I'm in a one-on-one with this Tracer and my teammates won't turn around because I'm solo queuing or something. That's what the pistol should be for, not for any other time.
I feel like they put it in there just so people wouldn't feel completely useless. Even though they just have that like psychological, like, oh well, I can get myself out of this with the gun, even though you can't.
Yeah,
I mean, you quote can, but you won't probably.
One more thing that's cool, and it's not going to affect the tournament play at all, but they removed the first checkpoint from.
I was going to say they fixed it. They fixed another bug. that first checkpoint that was at Gibraltar, that bug.
Right. That's really going to help, I think, a lot. It's going to make the solo queue ranked experience much, much better. Like, whenever I queue up 5 guys for my team, right, and we go into a ranked match, and we're trying to hold back and just hold the second checkpoint like anybody with a brain would do, right? But the 6th guy doesn't have a brain, so...
they never do.
And he's yelling at us and chat, like, why are we just giving them 2 free minutes? It's like, why are you trying to give them the 2 checkpoints for free? Why aren't you just holding back here where we have the spawn advantage and everything makes sense? Like, watch one tournament, please. Just do everybody a favor.
Watch one map.
Yeah. At this game. But it's just, it'll be way easier to convince people to hold back because now you can just say, like, we spawn right outside this door. Like, why would we go all the way up there? It doesn't make sense. You're not giving them anything. And nothing will be at all different. And all is right with the world on Watchpoint Gibraltar.
Yeah, they 100% thumbs up, everything good. But I think we're a little bit over, so we're going to. I had another thing that I wanted to talk about, but it's always going to be the case, so I won't even bring it up.
Just boil it down to this: send the Blevins any pictures you have of Overwatch-related baked goods.
Oh my god! Or like your highlight that we've already seen, or your like your like stupid fan image comic. It's like, okay, on the one hand, it's great because it's grown the Overwatch community. It's gotten a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily be into Overwatch, like with the cosplays, the art, the this, the that, the other thing. But it's all awful, and I hate all of you for posting it on
Reddit. Was the play of the game spoofs?
Yeah, those are funny.
Were A+ phenomenal. Feel free to send us all of those that you find that are super funny.
And actually, okay, I lied. I lied because I do watch a lot of the videos people make. There is one that someone made. It's like a recut of Soldier 76 like going back and killing a bunch of people with his grenade, and like it's that. I'll send it to you afterwards. It's basically like the first one is Soldier 76 takes his grenade and throws it at the girl in the Soldier 76 video, and it explodes, and then it like cuts to Soldier 76 at the end with like the moon behind him and him saying a one-liner, and then it cutting to another thing of like him doing the same thing to Hanzo, except they dub it with the little girl's voice and him screaming in the like same explosion in the same cut to Soldier 76. I'll post the link in the description. It's really stupid, but it's like that type of stupid humor that I love so much, and that gets me to laugh every time. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll post the link in the description, and like, but I will say 90% of it's a short enough topic. I'll mention it. So what I did was, I'm like, okay, I don't want to see fan content, I don't want to see humor, and I don't want to see highlights. Like, those are what I see at the top of Reddit most of the time, because everyone without a brain just like immediately like upvotes it. I mean, I do too. I don't have a brain. But I'm like, I just want to see like news and discussion, Sombra stuff, and like other like esports related stuff on the Reddit. So you have the ability to turn those other things off. I did, and you know how many recent posts there were?
I do, because you told me.
4. Literally only 4 posts. So, yeah.
Step up your game, Reddit.
Like, the Overwatch subreddit is like one of the most popular Reddits on Reddit, I believe. It's definitely the most popular Blizzard one. It's been for a very long time. Like, has way more users than any of them. It passed Hearthstone like before Overwatch released, I think. And Hearthstone was the previous top one. It's it's like, if you don't like the meme of like the Gremlin Diva and the like Soldier 76 dad meme, like if you don't like those memes, then Reddit is useless. If you don't like stupid talentless cupcakes, Reddit is useless. If you don't like people posting like their cosplays like constantly and their like stupid arts of like Overwatch characters in stupid places, the general Overwatch subreddit is almost useless. Now, yes,
Reddit is always useless. That's really the TLDR of the situation.
Yeah, I understand. I could go to like the competitive Overwatch subreddit, or like there's like Overwatch specific subreddits, like more specific ones I could go to. Yes, but I just want to be able to go to the Overwatch subreddit and just like see news that's coming up, like the patch notes or something. But like even like important stuff, like patch notes or something, like a lot of times they get bumped down because people post their stupid highlights nonstop, and I thought by now that those things would stop, but they don't. So
nope.
if you're okay, this is what I'll say, and this will be the last thing I say on it, at least for this episode. If your Overwatch, if your highlight is not something that is completely unique and just happen to happen, don't post it. If it's just you getting a like 5 kills, don't post it. It's already been posted. If it's you getting this like really great shot, don't post it. It's already happened. If it's something like super unique and crazy that probably won't happen again, okay, post it. If it's not, don't post it. But That's it.
Good job not going on that rant and saving it for next week.
Yeah, I 100% went on it. I actually talked about it more than I thought I wanted to.
In closing for me, though, I
Yeah.
will say some things we didn't talk about from the tournaments this past week. There were two really notably big upsets that I think you guys might really enjoy seeing. I will hopefully get around to putting them up on highnoonpodcast.com on the VOD section. The match of the week is already there. That'll guaranteed be there. But Huckleberry actually knocked CLG out of their qualifier and then lost to Sody Pop, and that's how Sody Pop found their way in Group B for the NA side of things. So Huckleberry, not a team that was really on my radar before this week, beat CLG, who was a little bit on my radar. So props to them. Also, let's see here. There was another upset.
Complexity.
Where did it go? Yes, Rise Nation, a newly signed team. This is a Call of Duty organization moving their way into Overwatch, signed the team formerly known as Gecko Fox. So unfortunately for them, their name wasn't prophetic, and they didn't get to pick their sponsor. But props to them because they took down Complexity, who I think it was more a matter of Complexity having an off day by a large margin. They did go on to lose to Method the following round, and Method's a real team. Obviously, they qualified. They beat Rise Nation in order to get in there, but they did a 2-1, by the way. So Rise Nation is no joke. I had seen their name around Gecko Fox and just hadn't. They always just fell short of making it on camera, so it was great to see them in the limelight a little bit, and they did not disappoint their new sponsor at all. So props to them. But yeah, some really big upsets this week, and really, if a team like Rise Nation and Method, if they're able to up their game, maybe we won't be looking at NA like it's shallower than EU is anymore. Because if they can continue that and repeat those performances from those two teams, that'll really help fill out the top 8 for NA quite a bit.
Yeah, it will. I really like the spread of, even though I do like the we talked about it with Hex. I do like the the Tom Brady / Patriots. Like there's a definite number one, and then everything else is kind of like a tier below it. I do like the nice spread of EU where it's like any one of these teams can win. That's exciting as well. So. I don't know. I will definitely be happy to see NA get filled out a little bit more, but I do like kind of having that like king. I like having the king. So
yeah, that's only fun if there's parity in the 2 through 8 spots, though. For the most part,
that's true.
And,
that's true.
We are seeing a little bit though, because it does make me die inside a little bit to think that Harblue won't play Harblue once in the finals, and he won't go on a Harblue and Harblue anybody the entire time. So they fell short and did not manage to qualify. In case you're wondering, Harblue is synonymous with Roadhog, Flank, and Hook. All 3 of those terms, you can just substitute Harblue in for them, and everybody in the Overwatch community will know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, 100% true. But we're well over time. Let's close it out. Deathblow, where can we find you, buddy?
You can find all my links on the website, highnoonpodcast.com, and you all missed your opportunity to buy discounted shirts on the website, but they are still available at full price, so feel free to check those out too.
Yes, and we'll always let you guys know if there are going to be more sales, but you can also find my links on highnoonpodcast.com. You can also find links to the shirts there, highnoonpodcast.com. You can also you can just find all the links to the show on highnoonpodcast.com. I think.
Go look at the tweet we posted of the picture of the business cards. That's got everything you need on there.
Yeah, it has everything there. So thank you all for listening, everyone who listens every week. Love you guys. Thank you to all the patrons. Thank you to Creation Esports for hosting us on their website. Thank you to Matt Chirino for being one of our sponsors. I think that's the shortest outro we've ever had, so I have to do this little tangent about how it was so short just to make it long enough. But
I'll add this. Omri, if you happen to be listening this week, you want to do it. Just go ahead.
Just go ahead and say it.
It'll be fine.
What could that be? Ooh, who knows?
Maybe so soon.
Maybe we'll have an announcement to make eventually, but maybe we won't. I don't know. But one thing that I do want to do while I find the sound effect for it is ask you guys one thing. What time is it? Okay, you know what it is.
Got his boots,
it's high noon.
put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he mine.
Okay, end of the show thing. I don't have any idea what I want to do, but this is what you should do. You should tweet at us at High Noon Podcast and tweet at Creation Esports and say we want the High Noon Podcast boys to be the kings of the watch. Okay, bye.